Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really getting into something that, well, blew up online. That viral photograph of Lorde, the one connected to her new album, Virgin. You've probably seen the buzz. But, we want to go deeper than just the headlines. Our mission today is to kind of unpack the layers here. We're talking artistic intent, the photographer behind it, Lorde's own exploration of identity.
Yeah.
And of course, how everyone reacted, it was varied.
Oh, definitely varied.
We're drawing mainly from a really good article called Why Is That Revealing Photograph of Lorde Going Viral? But also pulling in social media stuff, fan comments, the whole picture. So get ready. We think there are some surprising things here, maybe a few aha moments. You'll definitely feel well informed by the end. All right, let's start with the image itself, the one that kicked things off. It's an NSFW picture, not safe for work, obviously, found inside the vinyl version of the album, Virgin.
Right, in the liner notes.
Yeah. And it shows Lorde wearing these totally see-through pants, nothing underneath. But the way it's shot, it's cropped, basically from the waist down, maybe a bit higher, not showing everything. And what's really striking visually is how much it echoes the actual album cover.
An X-ray.
Exactly. The X-ray of her pelvis by the artist Heji Shin. That connection alone tells you something's going on, right? It's not just a provocative photo for its own sake.
Precisely. That's what's fascinating here. It immediately signals, okay, this isn't standalone. It seems really connected to the broader artistic vision from the get-go. It poses this question, maybe, what do we think we see when something is revealed versus what do we actually understand?
Oh, I like that. Revelation versus understanding.
Yeah, the X-ray especially. You feel like you see everything, total transparency, right? But an X-ray, it actually obscures soft tissue, the surface, hides as much as it shows.
So that tension's built right in.
Baked right into the first visuals, yeah.
Okay, so that makes you wonder about the photographer, Talia Chetrit. Her name popped up in the liner notes thanks to fans on Reddit. And she worked with Lorde before, right, on the single cover for, what was that?
She did. The one with Lorde's face covered in that sort of translucent goo.
So does Chetrit's own work give us more clues about this image?
Absolutely. Her work is, well, it's very focused. She said in a 2018 Flash Art interview, and I'm quoting here, "Power dynamics, agency, sexuality, and the psychology behind imagery have always been an important part of my work."
Power dynamics, agency, sexuality.
Okay. And you really see that. A lot of her photos feature her, or others, in various states of undress. But it often feels like a commentary, on desire, power, how we look, how we're seen. And interestingly, she's used similar see-through pants in her own self-portraits. Posing in a mirror, legs spread, camera held up to her face.
Wow. Okay, so this isn't a totally new visual element for her.
Not at all. It seems part of her ongoing exploration of these themes. It's less about simple titillation and more about maybe making the viewer aware of their own gaze.
Making you aware of how you're looking. That's interesting.
Yeah, challenging your role in that dynamic.
Okay, so understanding Chetrit's background adds a whole other dimension. And this is where it gets really interesting, I think, looking at how art critics interpret this kind of work. There's this analysis by Amanda Maddox in Aperture talking about Chetrit's plastic nude from 2016. Maddox points out that even though the see-through garment leaves virtually nothing to the imagination, it's not exactly titillating by default.
Right, that's a key point. It pushes back against the immediate assumption. And Maddox even compares it to Roland Barthes' idea about the striptease.
Oh, yeah.
Where he says, woman is desexualized at the very moment when she is stripped naked.
Desexualized when stripped naked? That feels counterintuitive.
It does. But the idea is that the performance, the artificiality, removes the raw eroticism. It becomes something else. It almost makes you question if the nudity is, well, real in a sense, or if it's kind of illusion.
An illusion? How so?
Maddox brought up this parallel to E.J. Bellick's photos from like a century ago. There's one of a woman who looks nude, but she's actually wearing a flesh-colored body stocking. It's deceptive.
Whoa.
So it raises this important question, doesn't it, about how we perceive nakedness versus just revealing. And what are the layers of meaning when an artist deliberately plays with those lines, with our expectations?
That idea of maybe desexualizing or creating an illusion, that's fascinating, especially considering the online reaction, which often was quite sexualized. So how does this artistic intent line up with Lorde's own themes on the Virgin album? Because the album title itself suggests something about, well, beginnings, maybe vulnerability, identity.
I think it converges perfectly. Lorde seems to be exploring that exact space. Think about the opening track, Hammer. She sings, "Some days I'm a woman, some days I'm a man." And she's talked about making the album, saying she was beginning to understand that my gender was more expansive than I had thought.
More expansive.
Yeah. So this photograph, this way of presenting her body, it feels like another piece of that puzzle. Part of her exploring and expressing that expansive sense of self, maybe inviting us to look beyond simple labels.
And it's not just the photo and the lyrics, is it? She's been playing with gender conventions elsewhere in the rollout, like the video for Man of the Year, where she takes down her breasts and is writhing on this huge pile of dirt.
Yes, that's not random soil. That's a very deliberate reference.
To what?
To Walter de Maria's New York Earth Room. It's from 1977, a really iconic piece of land art.
Land art. Okay, I've heard of that.
And the thing about land art is, historically, it's been, well, pretty aligned with a certain kind of masculinity. Think big earthworks, interventions in the landscape.
Right, sort of monumental.
Yes, exactly. Even though amazing women artists like Agnes Deans and Nancy Holt were involved, the perception often leans male. Megan O'Grady wrote about this in 2018, calling land art an almost perfect distillation of the art world's history of male privilege.
Wow.
With its conviction that man is entitled to space, to roam, to make his mark. Women, however, never enjoyed that privilege.
So Lorde mimicking that.
It feels like she's stepping right into that history, that traditionally male space, and completely upending it.
Okay.
Reclaiming that space to roam for herself, maybe for a different kind of identity expression.
That makes so much sense. And then there's the last track on the album, David, which you have to assume nods to Michelangelo's David, maybe the most famous male nude in art history. It feels like a pattern.
It really does. And look, if we tie this all back together, bring in Hiji Shin's X-ray cover again.
Okay.
Shin does a lot of X-ray work exploring visibility. And here you get this incredible contradiction. In the vinyl photo, Lorde reveals almost everything physically. On the cover, you see her bones, literally seeing through her. But we still can't really pin down or fully see her gender identity, which she herself says is expansive. Shin actually said something about her work in Art News back in 2019. Even if you can see through me, you can understand even less of what's going on.
Understand even less. That's powerful.
It nails that tension we talked about right at the start. Seeing isn't necessarily understanding. Revelation doesn't equal comprehension.
Okay, so we have this rich, layered artistic statement drawing on art history, photography theory, personal identity, which then brings us to the big question. How did all this land out there in the real world? You know, on social media where things move so fast.
Yeah, that's the transition, isn't it? From considered intent to immediate consumption. And, well, it seems like most of the chatter online. It didn't really engage with these deeper ideas from Chetrit or Shin or the art references.
Right. The reactions were much more visceral, immediate. We saw a lot of comparisons, for example, to that Sabrina Carpenter album cover that caused a stir, the one where she's kneeling and a man's grabbing her hair.
That one got changed, didn't it?
Yeah. She changed it later, joked it was approved by God or something. But people were definitely putting the two images side by side. There's this one post on X from a parody account, actually, but it got like 86,000 likes. It basically mocked Lorde's photo, calling it groundbreaking, with scare quotes, while labeling Carpenter's as anti-feminist.
Setting up a dichotomy.
Exactly. And this same account followed up saying something like, today when us women are still fighting for our rights, it's bizarre that influential people do weird stuff like this for engagement. Both covers are very odd.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, we're just reporting that viewpoint, not endorsing it, but it shows one strand of the reaction.
It definitely does. And then you had other responses kind of dismissing the whole debate. Like one user who seemed to be referencing Madonna's sex book from '92.
Ah, the classic.
Just wrote something like, no need for all the discourse. 90s Madonna would kill you all. Basically saying, we seem provocative, folks.
Which is another valid take, in a way. Pop culture has precedence. And then, of course, you just had the pure internet humor takes. My favorite might have been the tweet saying, when you open your Virgin vinyl and see Lorde with that clip from iCarly of the blinding white light.
Chuckles slightly.
Right.
Just the sheer memification of it all.
It really shows the full spectrum, doesn't it? From serious critique to dismissal to pure joke.
The whirlwind of online reaction.
So that really brings our deep dive full circle. We started with this single image that went viral, and we've traced it through the photographer's intent, art historical context, Lorde's own thematic explorations of gender and identity, all the way to how it landed, or didn't, with the wider public online. It's clearly so much more than just a photo designed to shock. It's an intentional statement.
Absolutely. And it really prompts us, I think, to consider how art communicates in different ways and how we as audiences interpret things or sometimes Yeah, maybe misinterpret them, especially when things